If you're feeling unconfident when you're looking for your very first wholesale deal, this story from Marc Mason is going to help you get over the hump to get your first deal, just like Marc did. And he made $85,000 on his very first wholesale assignment fee after he was just working as a plumber. And he saw the people he was working for doing these renovation costs. And he was like, man, I've got to go learn as much as possible. And so he went to a seminar and promised himself not to buy anything, but got introduced to the idea of driving for dollars, and still believes today that that is the very best deal to find discounted properties owned by sellers that have a problem that you can help solve by unloading that property, giving them speed and convenience. And in return, they give you a discount so that you can make an assignment fee by passing that off to another investor, just like Marc did to make a staggering $85,000.
The Deal Machine REI podcast. Everything you need to know to get started in real estate investing.
Marc, why don't you tell us in 60 seconds who you are, what you're about, and what you do?
So I'm Marc Mason. I am a serial entrepreneur. I love building businesses and building teams and watching everybody in my organization win. I currently have a HVAC business and I have a real estate development business that primarily focuses on fix and flips. Although the past 2 years, we have transitioned that into large development because we landed our first, I think 3 or 4 years ago, we landed our first 30-acre parcel off driving for dollars through DealMachine, which is going to be turning into about 32 duplexes. So
wow,
nice,
big win.
I can't wait to hear about that. But what were you doing? You've got an HVAC business and you also do real estate investing. What did you do before that?
So I went to a technical school and I got my plumbing license right out of high school. When I got my plumbing license, I actually transitioned into a high performing mechanical and plumbing company out of Boston, where I learned to manage and schedule large HVAC and plumbing projects at a high caliber, like high rises, $3 million, $4 million projects. So I got really in tune with how to be organized, resourceful, and to really juggle multiple things at once and manage and schedule, which kind of leads me into why I think I am so dialed into how to, manage the real estate process. We take really pride in how fast we turn things around. We do probably about $120,000 to $150,000 a month in rehab cost, and we usually buy, rehab, and sell our properties within 90 to 120 days. So I'm very in tune with the scheduling because of that opportunity I had. And what happened was I opened up a plumbing company while working there. When I opened up my plumbing company while working there, I was in the field doing everything myself, and I worked for people that did rehabs. And what I realized was that it wasn't, not that it wasn't hard, it was more of I felt like I had the edge. I was like, what you're saying doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. I get that you think I'm probably a stupid plumber, but when I seen them as product managers going out on site and pushing all these things, and things just didn't add up and they weren't realistic, I'm like, you know what? I can get into real estate. I can do this. I know I can do this way better than they can. And what happened was I went to a Fortune Builders class, 3-day event. And I went in there saying, I am not going to buy anything, but I'm going to take everything I can and do my research. So right after that, I was introduced into DealMachine. And what happened was I flipped houses while at my full-time job. I actually mastered it. I was doing 20 houses a year with a full-time job as a product manager at my mechanical company. And then at some point it was just all right, it's not about the money right now. It's about the time, because we were averaging 80 grand a flip. And it just came easy to me. I like fast-paced things. I like that high energy. And that's kind of how it was all born. And I did my first BRRRR in 2014 with a 3-family foreclosure through hubzoo.com. And then right after that, I got my first wholesale deal through word of mouth. And I made $85,000 off the wholesale. And that's what took off. So 2015, it took off, and we've probably done, I don't know, north of 200 deals. I
Oh
lost
my
track.
gosh. Your first deal was $85,000. How the heck did that feel after coming from a plumbing salary?
So it's funny because it was word of mouth. I watched a couple of videos and they're like, if you want to be successful, you have to tell people what you do. Because I was always
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, you do rehabs, you flip houses, you do this, you're wealthy, you're rich, you get all this money. Once I felt good about sharing the knowledge and everything that I do with everybody on social media, that's when I really took off. And I landed that deal because I shared with everybody what I wanted to get into and what I was doing. And I'm forever to this day indebted through dumpsters to the guy that got it for me. Because I said, listen, you're never going to have to pay for a dumpster again. And here we are 7 years later. And he's like, hey, you got anything? I need to throw some stuff out of the shed. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Go to this address. Boom. So it's pretty funny how it
Nice.
worked out. Here we are
What
today.
did you do with that money? What
I
was
rolled
the
it. The money. So it wasn't I think after that deal, it wasn't the money, it was the confidence. And I think that's
Sure.
what everybody gets. I think everybody gets caught up in the money and like how it all operates. And I mean, when people come up to me and tell me, hey, what can I do? I'm like, just get that first deal.
Right.
Whether you make $1,000, break even, 10,000, 20,000, whatever it is, it's not about the money. You need to overcome that barrier
That
and
first
regain
thing.
that confidence. And, so that money we rolled into another property and I kept calling it getting lucky. But like the next property was another 2-family, but they listed it for 185. I put an offer in for 120,000. They ended up denying it. I increased it to 150. They accepted it, but they sent the contract. The bank sent the contract over at 120. So it's like
Ooh.
I'm like I got lucky, but now like you look back at everything, you're like no, I did put in the work. I created the opportunity, and I think that's what everybody has to realize. I think it's more than that. So that's kind of how it got started.
So
It
when you
really
said that
is
you
so
actually,
crazy. Go ahead. Sorry.
how did you let people know that you were doing this? You said you let people know, and then that's how you actually found this deal, right?
Yeah. So I started, and go back to the basics. It's social media, right? It's no secret. I mean, most people getting into this, watching the show, don't have a ton of money. They're working a 9 to 5, and they need that push. And they can watch as many of these podcasts and anything like that as they need to, but realistically, they're not going to get that first deal unless they build that confidence and get on the phone or get in the room with that right person that's going to push them. So at the end of this podcast, I will give out my information and I'll help out anybody in the DealMachine community or not in the DealMachine community that really needs to push forward, because I love helping other people and getting on the phone with them. But overall,
Damn, that's extremely generous.
yeah, I just like it. I may not be able to get to them right away, but that's what I want to do. I want to help others, and like that build process is exciting to me. And it comes back to you. We'll get to that after, but I just want to finish what you asked. It's social media. It's free. It's an easy way to get in front of people. The biggest barrier you need to get over is confidence. You need to have confidence to sit in front of the camera and not judge yourself on how you look, or really you just gotta send it. And you guys both probably know Alex Hormozy. He says it best. What gets input versus output. You can put out 5 pieces of content a week, but over the course of the year, that there's not enough volume there. It's like direct mail, right? You can send 1,000 pieces of mail a month, but you're gonna get 10x the deals if you do 10,000 mailers a month. It's about volume, right? It's not about. It's not always about getting that perfect letter in the mail. It's you hit them 5 times, they're sick of you, they'll call you. So I think
Dude,
it's a volume game. What it comes down to.
just to illustrate what you said, when it's like what you put in is what you get out. You don't have to send the perfect letter that says the perfect thing. I went to a conference in Scottsdale, Arizona early on in my career, and it was 2018, and I was showing somebody how the DealMachine app worked. And we were inside of the conference, and I was like, Well, the way DealMachine works is you take a picture of a house, it tells you who owns the house, and then it sends a piece of mail to the owner with the picture that you took so they can see you were in front of their house, you're local, and they can see what their house looks like. Well, we were inside the conference room. So I took a picture of somebody's, it ended up being the back of a bald guy's head. And I picked a house next door to the conference center just to show them how it worked. And I said, start mail. And then I shit you not, that guy ended up getting a call from that postcard and he did a deal with that seller. The postcard had a picture of the bald guy's, the back of his head. And it didn't matter that was on the postcard because the seller still called him.
Are we
just
on
so
something
ridiculous.
new? Did we
So
just
it doesn't
create a new
matter.
marketing strategy?
It's yes, more volume. You definitely want to make it look as good as possible, but just putting in work will generate some results. And
Agreed.
so $85,000, holy smokes. Is that normal for you where you live in Boston?
I wouldn't say it's normal.
What did that feel like? Right?
I kind of
Yeah,
blacked out.
8,500 was mine.
You said you got a lot of confidence.
85,000.
Yeah, I kind of blacked
crazy.
out. I don't have I can't even remember the feeling. I just think I was just so excited for what's next.
Yeah.
I don't, that's what I was excited for. I actually had that confidence boost and it was real, right? You read all these books and you talk to all these people and you watch all these podcasts. It's like, oh my God, I did it.
I just did it.
And the funniest part of that whole $85,000 deal was I had every intent to rehab it. And someone came in, I was getting prices done for the house. And, I had someone come and price the vinyl siding, hey, we're going to rip off the aluminum siding, put vinyl siding on, all this stuff. I had everything lined up, ready to go. The person that I had look at the siding had a drug problem. They ripped the siding off, the aluminum siding off, and I wholesaled it without the siding on it. And it's funny because my buddy tells me this all the time. He's like, hey, everybody was laughing at you. They said, oh my God, do you believe it? Mark's first house he's going to flip. They ripped off all the aluminum siding. It's going to cost them like an extra 10 grand. And he says to this day, he's like, now look at you. Now who's laughing, right? Who's laughing now? So it's just funny how what happens and what barriers and detours you take along the way. You just got to have to make the best out of it. And sometimes, while it's on the top of my head, I'm very successful with partnering with people. I don't have time. So it's nice when I partner with people that have the time to really manage the rehabs and stuff like that. Although we do have a full-time project manager, sometimes we just got too much going on. So, if you have the deal and, maybe you do have the money and you need another out, you don't have time, you have a full-time job, you work, you're traveling, don't be greedy. It's all going to come together. Whether you make 10 grand now, 20 grand, 50, I think it's a longer picture. It's a long-term game. It's not a get rich quick scheme. So if you have to JV with people, partner with people, there's a huge community. Look at the Facebook group in DealMachine. I guarantee if someone came up to me and said, hey, I'm flipping a house in Miami, Florida, Marc, I'm in DealMachine. I look them up. I trust and verify them on social media. They need money. We both go on the deed. I trust them. We commit. Like I'd partner with somebody all day. That's just where I'm at. I'm sure anybody would, as long as all the boxes get checked.
Right. Yeah. One of the things I always recommend is if you're going out looking for your first wholesale deal and then you get one and then you're like, well, shoot, now how do I find a buyer? Definitely post it, on the Facebook Marketplace, definitely post it on Craigslist. But one thing I suggest doing is going to Google, say, sell my house fast, your city, and then reach out to the top 3 or 4 results and then share your deal with them and see if they think it would be a deal they could sell to their buyers. And usually that would be through, and they'll provide it, right? Like a JV agreement where you're splitting the wholesale fee 50-50 each. Marc, what's your favorite type of partnership that you do?
So time is not on my side. So I like partnering with people that are actually going to put the time in on site and manage the process. Right now we have a team of 7. You're
talking about for keeping a fix and flip fix and flip, right?
Doing a fix and flip. Yeah. So doing a fix and flip, although I have an HVAC business, we do not do our own HVAC work. We don't do our own plumbing work just to keep things separate. and to keep the phone calls down coming to me, because if they know it's my house, they're calling me. So that's what I do. I really like partnering with people that's going to give me time. I have the money, I don't have the time. So you're going to figure out what works best for you. You know, find somebody. If it's opposite, if you have the time, not the money, there's going to be someone that matches with you that can provide that. And I think you nailed it, David. It's you know, reverse engineering some things goes a long way. And if you find that deal and you don't have a cash buyer, that's perfect. Go right in Google. You're going to find someone like myself, like anybody on this call, anybody in the community that will be able to partner with you, or you'll be able to wholesale too.
Yeah.
So how do you, I mean, you made $85,000 on this wholesale deal. You're doing a lot of fix and flips, which you take a little bit more time. Well, how do you decide when you find a deal, if you're actually going to wholesale it or if you're going to flip it?
So we primarily do fix and flips. That's what we like doing. And I think when you build a team, your priority is to keep that team going and to keep the paychecks signed, right? You guys as business owners know that. So, you know, if a deal doesn't have as much money into it, right now it's a business. We are working it like it's a business. It's not like a fix and flip 1 year, 2 a year. We sub it all out. Right now we have 2 carpenters full time. We have an acquisitions, a COO, which is head of acquisitions. We have a lead manager. We have an administrator, and a VA. So we have that team has to stay, and a product manager. So that team has to stay busy. So that's kind of how we operate, but we don't do much wholesales unless we're maxed out.
Got it.
You know?
And how are you finding your deals? I know you said you found a 30,000 acre lot, right? Through Driving for Dollars?
Yeah. So to be honest, you are going to get the best results driving for dollars. I think it's when you think of real estate and buying your first home, you got to think about the difference, right? What's going to be the difference maker? You driving for dollars every day, you're going to be seeing the houses that nobody else sees that can just pull a list. The easy thing is to pull a list and send out a volume of mail. Obviously, if you don't have thousands of dollars, you can't do that. But I started off with pulling into the driveway, sending the postcard, skip tracing it. I remember I'm visualizing when I did this through DealMachine. Skip traced it, call, boom. All right, call right away. That's my what I would do. If you're just getting started, you have time, right? So
yeah,
in 2015 there was a DealMachine property that the house was haunted. You know, it was the craziest thing. It was like somebody walked away and did not do anything. Nobody walked in there since. It was rotted, floor joists, $225,000 I put into it. I made $7,000, and there was a calendar on the calendar on the wall that was from 1970 that was still hanging up in like January. Craziest thing I've ever seen. But it was like my 3rd or 4th deal. So I'm like, whatever. I guess I get the hard ones. I don't know, whatever. Let's roll with it. And what happened was, I guess everybody was trying to get this house and calling on it. I pulled into the driveway, went on DealMachine, took a picture of it, hit skip trace, called it. The old lady picked up. She was 90. She picked up. I talked to her, and she's like, we scheduled a meeting. Like, I think it was like 3 or 4 days out. Hey, I was like, I'll come by. We'll go over it. She was very touched with the property. She grew up in it. It was her mother's. I went there. She really, one of the things I do is I tend to try to get the property, but I also tie my wife into it. Like, me and my wife flip properties. This is what we do. This is our work. And we like to do it because I feel like that brings a little bit of emotional attachment into the deal. Mm-hmm. She loved it. She wanted to meet the wife. She met the wife. I bought the deal, and here we are, and it's been a lot of them like that, and like you just touched on, David, was a 30-acre piece of land. I had no business doing marketing to that. Actually, I didn't even send the postcard. I had a bird dog send the postcard, and I worked the deal for 2 years. I bought it for $375,000. I have it engineered for 20 duplexes and 4 houses, and I just finished the first house. So massive deal. It's going to be, next year is going to be a really big year for us. So it's going to be exciting.
Well, that's amazing. Congratulations on finishing the first house. Can't wait to see the other 24 come up there on that $38,000, 38,000 acre piece of land.
30 acres total.
How did you figure out how much to buy the land for? How did you know that 375K was the right price?
So land is a different animal, as we all know. And I think there's less competition. So as we get more competition within the real estate space, I think people are more nervous about ground up construction. Not just that, but permitting, development. There's a lot more ifs that go into it. So I think the word of this podcast is confidence, right? So once you get this confidence and you have the money to back it up after so many years of doing fix and flips, it was time to kind of take a risk. Like, all right, I'm going to buy this land. I organized them to allow me to perk test it prior to purchasing it. I perk tested it.
What type of test is that?
It's a percolation test where they check if the soil is good.
Okay.
Everybody and their mother told me that it wasn't going to perk. We went in there and it originally perked for 8 houses. So I'm like, yes, let's go, and we worked it with the engineers, and we came up with some other ideas. And, we obviously tripled the amount of units that we could put on there, which is super exciting. And I would have never, if I didn't have as much experience as I have now, I probably wouldn't have gone after it. So if anybody can take anything out of this call, it's, if something seems like it's a deal and it's just out of your wheelhouse, find the person that can help you. I feel like so many people just don't ask. And there's so many people that want to share knowledge and help and partner these days. It's a lot different now than it was like when I was like younger, or when you guys were probably younger. I feel like everybody back in the day used to keep everything close to the chest, where now it's more of an open concept and more of like, hey, I'm willing to help. So that's how that came up, that came to life. And as for the price, I set the price. I kind of just did it off the comps and what I thought I could get there. But the key to it was, I said, I'm going to give you $375,000, but it has to perk test. And I left that perk test open for negotiation. Like, could it perk test for 1 lot? Could it perk test for 20? So that was kind of like a situation that I kind of snuck in there to cover me either way. So that's kind of how that came to life. We perk tested it last April. The first house, we started it in January. It closes. We started foundation in January. It closes right now with the end buyer in about 2 weeks. Most of my houses I sell off market through Instagram, which is
most of your houses you sell off market through Instagram
before they're done.
What?
Yeah. Just posting coming soon.
So
what's the strategy there?
They're pretty houses, right? They're pretty houses. So it's
like
the average
finished.
Yeah, so we have a pretty good reputation, and I think more than the reputation, I think we have a pretty good. We do very good at branding, and it's no secret that people can't find houses, so we use that to our advantage, and we post them as we're getting through them. And it's more of like, I'll put up stories and I'll say, hey, listen, you can come into this house, $500,000, 3.5% down is $15,000. You come in, 580 credit score through FHA. You can have this house for $2,500 a month. And what do you pay for? What's your rent right now? We can get you in this house. Give us a call. And we don't really do a lot of call to actions, but I think a lot of people just reach out. And this house that we're closing on is a $700,000 house. So can you imagine the commission that we're saving? We actually have a realtor that we work with. We have a realtor that we work with kind of in-house, and the ones that we can sell prior to market, we just give them a transaction fee. That's a little bit heavier.
Amazing. So that's great. You get actually the money before you finish the house, right? So it helps cut your cost of financing down for, I'm guessing, borrowing money to actually rehab the house.
Yeah. Luckily, we're at the point now that we do not use hard money that much, which is exciting. Amazing.
Yeah.
Except obviously this large development is a different story. It's going to take a lot of money.
All right. So you went from plumber to actually doing your first wholesale deal, making $85,000. And you're saying the driving for dollars deals are the best deals. Let's switch gears a little bit and hear a little bit more about you, Marc. Is there any personal hobbies or things about you that are totally separate from business, but maybe help you become a better businessman?
So I think there is, and I think the turning point in my life was number one, surrounding myself with the right people and being intentional about it. The second thing, which kind of goes with the first one, is um, I went from one relationship to the other, and they couldn't have been two more different relationships. And when I got into the
You mean with a
relationship,
girlfriend?
yes, with the girlfriend, yeah. So I went from one girlfriend that really did not support me and bring out the best in me to someone that really supported me and took me to the next level. And it naturally just created this monster in entrepreneurship. And to this day, obviously, we have the HVAC business, we have the real estate business, and we didn't talk about it, but I got a restaurant too in the pandemic that
Wow.
transpired. And I mean, through all the businesses, we're almost at $20 million in revenue a year.
That's incredible.
That is
So,
awesome.
but I think people just need to go back to the basics, and I think it's like, if you're just not happy in your relationship, you're not going to excel in life. You're not going to be able to focus on that first wholesale deal, that first fix and flip. So I think people really need to, like, where are they at in life? It's kind of like being on the airplane. They tell you, if you need oxygen, you put it on yourself first, and then, your passenger. So I think it's like, we have to go back to the basics, right? So I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I think that's something that's probably not talked about
100%.
enough.
Right. I mean, another way
Who
of
you
saying it is you
surround
can't
yourself
pour
with.
from an empty cup.
You can't pour
Yep.
for empty cup. Yep, 100%.
So, Marc, where can people find you? Where's your Instagram where you post those beautiful houses and that you offer that amazing, generous support?
So you can reach out to me at Eastside Property LLC on Instagram, and Marc Mason, MARC, MASON _ on Instagram. That's probably the best place to get in touch with me. You can also get me on Facebook by my name. But if you hit me up on any of those platforms, I'm willing to help. I do have scope sheets that get me through these processes, through these jobs quickly, and streamlines that rehab process. So I'm willing to share those all with you. And that was a struggle in the beginning, was really managing contractors. So if you can manage the contractors at a high level, and they respect you and they respect the job, I think you'll be able to get through those rehabs faster than you think. And it's simple things, and you probably both ran into these things. It's like, who's doing the exhaust fan? Is it the electrician? Right. Is it the plumber? Is the HVAC guy? Like, on all my projects, the HVAC guy does the exhaust fan. It doesn't matter.
Interesting.
And on the thermostats, the electrician was every thermostat. Doesn't matter what job it is. So I kind of like systemized it. I'm very good at systems, and your team, Elise will probably tell you, I'm like a systems guru. Like, I need a system, and that system is, listen, your quote includes this. You sign off on that scope sheet through DocuSign, and I don't care if it's extra for the thermostat, if it's extra for the electrical wiring. That's just what needs to happen, because it's going to cost us more money on the back end, not getting it done as fast and not putting the right person in the right seat at the right time.
Yeah. Totally get it. Well, Marc, Ryan and I are pretty new hosts, okay? And so I wanted to say, before we sign off, was there anything that you wanted to convey, any part of your story that we didn't ask that you didn't get to say before we end the podcast?
Nobody's ever asked me that. Those last two questions, nobody's ever asked me, which is like, it says a lot about the time and effort and who you guys are as individuals, which is pretty cool. I know I haven't met you guys in person yet. I'm super excited. I'm sure we're going to run into each other because we have a lot of the same circles and networking. We go to the same networking events and stuff like that. So I'm sure we're going to meet in person at some point. But no, I think overall this podcast was, just the right time. I think around that 30 minutes is good for, entrepreneurs and busy people like yourself and not myself. It gives us just enough time to to really hit home on certain items and the certain strengths that a human being has. So I think I hit on a lot of them, and I think that I think if anybody needs me, they can reach out to me, and I'm willing to help. And I appreciate you guys.
Of course, man. I would love to meet you in person too. Again, for those listening, Eastside Property LLC, reach out to Marc. He's been super generous to offer his help. And one thing I noticed, Marc, on this podcast is you can tell how successful that you have been just based on the fact that you are just calm and collected. And I don't know if you feel this on the inside, but I mean, it's just great to be around, and it's definitely an inspiring way to be and to affect others and to move about the world. Thank you so much for sharing today with us on our podcast.
I appreciate that. There's one last thing I'm going to add, actually. I'm going out of my comfort zone, and I'm writing a book. It should be published in September, and it's going to be how to overcome childhood adversity to break through to entrepreneurship.
Nice. Okay.
So pretty excited about it. I'll let you guys know when I'm getting closer to the reveal, but I think that's something that ties exactly into where people are at, because not everybody has the same cards dealt in their childhood or all those early years. So I think that's really going to help push people to the next level, and it's made for young adults and people going through middle school and high school or right after. That's going to really help them streamline and grow to the next level. And it's just a piece of my little puzzle that I think I can share. So,
oh my gosh, I'm so glad you mentioned that. What a cliffhanger. I can't believe we didn't even get into that. Seems like there's something that happened that definitely made you who you are.
Yeah.
That's
definitely.
That's something to uncover.
We will, we'll have another podcast on it, but my past is very interesting, and the odds were against me, and that's why I think I have such high respect in my town and throughout all my networking events and audience. So I think that's something that I'd like to share at some point when we get around to it again. But I think that would be very inspiring to everybody else to push them to the next level.
That would be amazing. I'm definitely booking you on another podcast soon.
I love podcasts. You let me know. I love your team. Everybody, you can tell by your team how the leader is, and I can tell that you push culture and you push trust in your team. And me as a leader, and me doing this all the time, every day, I can see that. So when me and Elise were talking, I'm like, you got to get me in touch with David. You got to get me in touch, because I can just tell the dynamic in the company. So it's exciting. So, but we'll see each other again.
Let's do it again. I need to see it. I need to hear this. Thank you so much, Marc.
No problem, guys. Take care. Have a good day.
See you, man.
Thank you too.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.